expect to see a green flag. This is very steady indeed. And Riley Dickinson not able to jump in that more speed car yet. And there goes the green flag, and there goes the pole man. It's a great start from Kingsley. Green flag is in the air as the Porsches stream across the start line down towards the first corner. It's as you were, with Kingsley leading. Dickinson drops in to second place. Metney in the all-white car, then Sebastian Carrazzo. Metney, by the way, the best of the Masters runners, of which there are legion in this race. Drivers who have slightly more experience of living, let's say. Across the bottom end of the circuit, and for the first time heading down what I call the middle straight down towards turn number 5 behind the pits at the driver's right. Paddock at the moment as they break downhill. Always tricky to spot your braking point. Just a little intake of breath there as I was waiting to see everybody go through, but they have made it through. And Jeremy Shaw, the first thing you've got to say is Jeff Kingsley did a fine job bringing them up the hill at the pace he felt comfortable with, and then that allowed him to control the start. It's quite a long run down to the first corner once the green flag has been shown, and we've got a spinner at turn 7 from the midfield, just happening as the back end of the field was coming through. Can't say whether they jumped or they were pushed. It was the number 52 car that has gone around. What a shame for Kurt Fazekas, for Kelly Moss Road and Race, that very distinctive blue and yellow front end of the car. So as Kurt gets going again, with no damage at least on the front, just going back to that start, Jeremy, Jeff Kingsley doing absolutely a cracking job.
Yeah, the 22-year-old from Toronto, Ontario, making a great start there. His first time from the pole position. He's had a couple of second place finishes before last season. It was his first full season campaign in the USA Series, raced previously to that in Canada, and one of those second place finishes came right here at Road Atlanta last season. So he wants to go one step higher on the podium today. That is the goal for Jeff Kingsley.
Yeah, and his attitude is go out and race, and he enjoys it, but it's quite clear that he's a bit of a talent down towards the first corner again. So the first lap is completed. Kingsley, Dickinson, Metney, Carrazzo, McAllister, Charlie Luck in 6th position for Wright Motorsport is the second. Oh, and another car going too wide there and finds the gravel bed. Now, I was looking at the timing screen there. Of course I was, Jeremy. Was that a little bit of an ushering off? The number 4 was involved in that, and that is the Manella MCR racing car. Looks like that might have a puncture on the right-hand side. And there's damage to the 10 as well. Oh, dear me.
That's Vernon McClure there, so clearly some sort of drama there.
Side-by-side contact.
Inside, Vernon McClure looking to the inside there of Michael Manella in turn 1. That's a brave move, and it looks like he kind of ran out of road there, and poor Michael Manella was in the way. But it looks like Vernon McClure's car has come off worse. Clearly quite a bit of damage to the front left corner on that number 10 car.
Yes, and I just chose that moment to look away, of course, and check. We're going to get a full course caution. Of course we are. The double yellows are out, and the bright yellow Porsche will emerge from the pit lane. Hello to Dennis and Tony, who are on the starter's stand there. He was coming. He wasn't there, Jeremy, was he? He was not there. That number 10 Vernon McClure car down the inside. 3/4 of the way up is almost there, but almost there at that point of the track. Such a quick turn in to turn 1. Almost there's not there enough, is it?
No, it's not, unfortunately. You've got to be completely alongside at the turning point, and clearly Vernon was not. I would say at that point in time. So you've got to pin that on Vernon McClure. He'll be disappointed with that. Had a good season last year, did Vernon McClure, just gaining in experience and gaining in pace all the way through last year, but I think he just got a little bit greedy there.
Yeah, he was right-hand Yokohama's already in the dirt. He might have thought there was an opening there, and in fairness, the number 4 Michael Manella hadn't got down to the apex, but he was getting there. He was sort of on a racing line, and I think Vernon was being somewhat optimistic. What the responsible adult has termed over the years a low percentage lunge. and both of those cars will take no further part, will be behind the Porsche safety car, and that is not the start to the race at the end of the first, or the start of the second racing lap that we wanted to see. Looks like steering and wheel damage on the left front of the number 10 car from Werner McClure, the TPC racing machine, looking very smart in its white and red stripes, echoing the works colours for the GT Le Mans cars this year. Well, the good news is the strap has been attached as the field comes past the scene of the crime. DNF'd last year at Road America, Michael Manella, if you remember and you have a memory, and Jeremy and I, and certainly all of race control, still have slightly sleepless nights about the Road America races in the Porsche Cup last year, because we had rather too much contact and rather too much damage, and Michael Manella was one of the drivers who didn't finish the first race last year, didn't get to start the second race. Slightly less damage on the number 4 car, as Michael's having a look at the front right. That's where the damage is being caused. I would suspect, Jeremy, there's a little bit of steering arm damage for that as well. Hopefully that car will get turned around for Sunday's race.
Yeah, it's an amazing story, is Michael Manella. He had a horrendous road accident quite a few years ago now, which basically took off both of his feet, and you just saw him there getting out of the car. Though he's fine, he can walk just fine, and he's just a tremendous character, and that's a very disappointing end to the race for him. Yeah, last year there were a whole bunch of big crashes, weren't there, and quite a few people didn't get to take part in the second race of the weekend, and thankfully that incident there wasn't nearly as destructive as some of those we saw last season, but certainly it had the same effect for Michael Manella and for Werner McClure.
Jeremy Shaw and John Hindhaugh, and we're in a full course caution with the safety car out. We've lost 2 of the 21, and then there were 19. But still, Jeff Kingsley leading from pole position, got the start absolutely right in the 2x2 to the green flag at the start of the race. He'll have to do it again when racing goes back to green. The clock continues to run. We started with 45 minutes on it, already down to 37 and a half, and I think we'll probably get one more lap behind the safety car, so that will give everybody just to have a little bit of a think about what they do on the restart. A bit of tyre weaving going on, trying to clean up the Yokohamas, maybe get a bit more temperature and pressure into them. Right at the very back, TPC's 74 car, that's Tom Kerr from Florida, from Tampa in fact, running under the livery of the Vein and Vascular Institute of Tampa Bay. One of a number of drivers in the championship this year and down through the years, Jeremy, you've had a medical background.
Yes, it does seem that way, doesn't it? It's quite remarkable, actually. It can be a fairly lucrative profession, and the doctors are looking for some fun to have on the side. And this GT3 Cup racing, just it's tremendous competition, and really good to see. We've got 2 newcomers in the series for this race. Is Kurt Hunt making his debut in car number 24, and Charlie Craig in car number 76. They qualified just outside the top 10, but they'll be looking to get some experience under their belts. They're both new to this championship, but they've been racing in Porsche Owners Club or PCA, Porsche Club of America, for the last several years. So this championship, the IMSA Porsche GT3 Cup Challenge USA by Yokohama, it's a non-professional championship, but it is certainly for drivers who have a fair amount of racing experience. You don't want to come into here if you've hardly got any racing under your belt.
5 drivers in the field that call Florida their home. Made the trip up to Road America, Wisconsin. This track really does suit the Porsche GT3 Cup cars. Not an easy car to drive. They are bereft of the electronic aids that seems to have been somewhat become somewhat ubiquitous in GT racing. Your GT3s and your GT4s tend to have a little bit of help for the drivers, and although these are called GT3s, but then again in Porsche parlance there's quite a lot of cars that are called GT3s. These cars have somewhat fewer helping electronic hands for the drivers, and I've heard it said from quite serious drivers and talented drivers that if you can drive a Porsche GT3 Cup car in either one of the Challenges or the Carrera Cup, or indeed the Super Cup that is part of the Formula One weekend, and they're all the same specification, by the way, the cars in those categories I've just mentioned, then you can pretty much drive any GT car. There's not a lot of assistance. Now, there is the option in the Masters category here, Jeremy, to have the ABS option ticked on the car, and indeed that was, I think, made mandatory in Masters a few years ago. But if you're running the Platinum class, there's no ABS, and you've got to moderate the brake pressure yourself.
There's a look at the Masters champion for the last 2 years is Alan Metni in Caliber 99. That's the iFly car. And he had a breakout weekend here last year. He only started racing back in 2017, Alan Metni from Austin, Texas, but he made rapid progress, did a lot of testing, and last year had a magnificent second place finish here at Road America, also qualified in third position 1 year ago. He's mirrored that already for the opening round of this season. But this is a different car he's running right now. He went testing at Road Atlanta a couple or 3 weeks ago, had a big crash and badly damaged his regular car. So he's fishing around trying to find a replacement car, or do I buy a new car? He ended up renting for I gather an hour or so one of David Moore's car, one of the Moore Speed Porsches. This is actually the car that Zachary Robichon used to win a whole string of races a couple of years ago. He loved the car, he bought it. He had a 1 hour test, I believe, at Blackhawk Farms, not far from here, and bought the car that the Kelly Moss team has been prepping this car for Alan over the last couple of weeks, and he's done a magnificent job to qualify this car in the third position here. And he's a Masters contender, but he's going for the overall wins this year.
Yeah, that possibly, Jeremy Shaw's great knowledge, possibly allowing for or explaining the reason that car's still in pure white and has not yet got the full iFly indoor skydiving livery on it. 32.5 minutes still to go after the second lap incident that brought out the full course caution. We're getting ready to go back to green, and Jeff Kingsley will lead the field back up the hill, weaving left and right. This time he gets on the accelerator just as he comes through turn 14, the final corner. Riley Dickinson's jumped with him, has dropped about a Porsche's length behind him, but he's in perfect position to get the slipstream, get the draft as they go through the green flag and down towards turn 1. Dickinson perhaps not quite close enough, goes to the left-hand side so he can try and do the old over and under, get a little better exit from turn 1. Metni in third position from Carrazzo in fourth. Metni in that white 99 car, still sitting in third place and still leading the Masters class. Carrazzo in that bright highlighter yellow car with the stripe down the middle. Then it's the JDX Racing number 11 of McAllister sitting in behind. He's right on there. That's the red and white car as they go under the bridge on the middle straight. The battle for the lead. Still about, 1.5, maybe 2 Porsche 911s. Closes down, of course, that concertina effect on braking into turn 5. 31 minutes to go. The leaders through 6 and towards 7, and a little gap opening up now back to third place Metni. Through turn 7, Kingsley still leading it out, trying not to drive looking in his mirrors. It's a hard thing to do, but you've got to just hit your marks and back yourself, Jeremy, to be braking where you need to be. As soon as you start looking behind you, you're going to start compromising, and there was just a little drop of the right front wheel onto the dirt there in the middle part of the carousel. Has that affected Kingsley as he comes off onto the flat out blast down to Canada Corner? Dickinson again in a prime position for an overtaking manoeuvre.
Yeah, he is. That was a good run he had through the carousel. The race leader, Jeff Kingsley, not quite so much, but Dickinson not quite close enough, I don't think, to be able to make a challenge as they head down into Canada Corner. This is the lowest part of the racetrack. A lot of elevation change here at Road America. It's just a great racetrack. It's one that the drivers all love. Great to see some crowd here as well this weekend. The first couple of races since the restarted season have been held behind closed doors for the IMSA WeatherTech Sports Car Championship. Of course, this is the first round of the year for the Porsche contenders, and they are loving the atmosphere here at Road America.
Yeah, limited crowd at both Daytona on the 4th of July, the Saturday night, and then at Sebring a couple of weeks ago. And good to see people are making a weekend of this for the IMSA Road Race Showcase, of which the Porsche GT3 Cup Challenge USA by Yokohama has 2 races and forms a part. Under half an hour to go. It's a straight blast, no pit stops. Well, no planned pit stops. If you're in the pit, something's gone a little bit wrong. Battle for 4th position. Carrazzo has been caught by the number 11 of Sean McAllister, the JDX racing car. Keep an eye on that red and white and a little bit of yellow on that number 11 car as well, that sits in behind the highlighted yellow car with the orangey red stripe down the middle. They're into turn 5 now, the downhill left-hander all the way down through the gearbox. Turn from the right-hand side of the road and pick your apex on the red and yellow striped curb, then up over the brow of the hill, turning in unsighted after the Corvette bridge. The 2 leaders definitely making a little bit of break now, and Kingsley just starting to get a bit of breathing space. About equidistant, 1st, 2nd and 3rd now. Kingsley, Dickinson and Alan Metney. And then that battle for 4th position. Charlie Look for Wright Motorsport is in 6th position. And that multicoloured car with the white front and the green hindquarters is dragging along. Mike Levitas with him in 7th in the number 36 TPC racing car. And they are beginning to close in on that little battle for what is almost 3rd, 4th and 5th now, as Alan Metney is beginning to be closed down on by both Carrazzo and McAllister. Good running. GT3 Gold Class leading that in 10th position is the number 65 of Efren Castro in the TPC racing car. So keep an eye for the 65. You'll tell it's a Gold Cup car because of the gold shade band and the gold mirrors. In fact, he's sitting right in behind the number 56. The usual red, white and blue colours of David Baker as they come through to the end of their lap. It's a good run from Efren. He's pulled away from Kurt Swearingen, who is in 2nd place, and he's got a car between them, that being the number 10 number 76 of Charlie Craig in another TPC racing car.
Yeah, for Efren Castro, he switched teams over the winter, now running with TPC Racing. Slightly different livery on that car as well. But Efren is doing a really nice job this weekend. His best finish in the Gold Cup category last year. He made his debut in this championship at the beginning of last season. His best finish was a 2nd place in the Gold Cup class. That was at Watkins Glen 1 year ago. But out here, he qualified on the pole position in the Gold Cup, did Efren Castro, and he's leading the race right now from Palisades Park in New Jersey.
So settling down into the middle portion of the race. Now, whilst the Porsche GT3 Cup Challenge USA by Yokohama is a series in itself, and there's a pass for position right down the inside. The TPC racing car of Danny Hardy from Vero Beach, Florida, one of those 5 Florida residents, manages to get the advantage on the number 17 of Kurt Swearingen. Now, they're not in the same class, but Kurt will be disappointed in that number 17 with the bright green wheels, because he does not want cars, Jeremy Shaw, between himself and his class leader, Efren Castro, that we mentioned in that 65 car, who's now got effectively two tail end Charlies, or 2 backstops, if you will, sitting in between himself and the 2nd place car in the Gold Cup.
Yeah, that's frustrating for him, certainly, but it's a long way to go still in this race. We've got 25 minutes remaining, so that unfortunately that full course caution ate up quite a bit of time, but there's still plenty of time to go. We're going to see some plenty of exciting racing in the closing stage of this race.
Yes, my point that I was going to try and make before that pass that we saw a moment or two ago from Danny Hardy whilst of course this is a championship and a prestigious one in its own right for the Porsche GT3 Cup Challenge USA by Yokohama, as at Canada Corner we have a quick rotation from the number 9 car, and that's Tom Balamis from Kelly Moss Muck Road and Race. Now has he lost the engine on that, Jeremy? Comes through, just took a little bit too much speed. I think he was already spinning as he turned into the apex in the number 9. Pretty decent avoidance behind him, actually, from the two guys. Oh, he's got it going again. I'm never going to get this point out, so I'll leave that till later. Charlie Luck now in the Rainbow 45 with right up his tailpipes. Michael Levitas, and how many times have we seen these two battling down through the years, side by side, as they streak out to the far side of the circuit. Absolutely identical cars coming down again at the braking area in turn 5. It's all down to the nuts behind the wheel, and the 45 just holding sway for a moment. Charlie Luck in 6th position and 2nd in the Masters class. Do you think I'd dare try and make that point? Right, it's a class and a championship on its own, but one of the things about this particular type of racing, 45 minutes, it's quite a long time in a car, and for some of these drivers it'll be the longest time they've been in a car, and it's basically trying to teach up and coming drivers, those that are using this as a stepping stone, a little bit about how to manage tyres and your car as the fuel burns off and as you're going through a stint. And we've seen many people, Jeremy, graduate from the Porsche GT3 Cup Challenge USA by Yokohama into other IMSA categories, having learned a little bit about endurance racing. This is like one stint of an endurance race, isn't it?
Yeah, that's right, it is. It's certainly a great training ground, no question about that, as this battle continues here between Charlie Luck in the Wright Motorsports entry, the car number 45, with the rainbow colours on the side of that car, and close behind him is Michael Levitas, a veteran in this series. He's one of the team principals at TPC Racing. That's, of course, the team that he drives for. And this is a battle for 6th and 7th places overall. And for 2nd place in the Masters category, it's still Alan Metney who leads that into 3rd place overall.
So, coming down now to just over 20 minutes to go. Still plenty of racing here. And the option really between team and driver, and you have to work with your team here. The car is quite heavy at the start of the race, with enough fuel to get it through 45 to 50 minutes of racing. Remember, the race isn't necessarily over on the spot of 45 minutes. If you've just started another lap, you'll get another one around here, which could be another 2 minutes and 13 seconds. Fastest cars in the categories. Well, the leader, it will not surprise you to know, has the fastest lap in platinum. Jeff Kingsley, 2 minutes 13.2. The number 16 car. Whilst in the gold, it is also the leader who has the fastest lap. TPC Racing's Efren Castro, 2:16.995. There are a couple of quite a little bit more than detailed differences between gold and platinum cars nowadays. The platinum cars with a little bit more power, and if you look very carefully, you'll see they have slightly different headlight arrangements. That's because they're a slightly different generation of the 993 Cup car. A little bit detailed changes inside the car in terms of some of the equipment and the dashboard, and still a very impressive race car. And I see plenty of the Gen 1 cars still running in endurance racing series that we cover around the world. It's a good run from Efren, and he's again on the tail of David Baker. I'd suggest that Efren, if he could get through, might be a little bit quicker inside the top 10 than David at the moment, but just can't overcome the extra pace from the Gen 2 car. Meantime, Charlie Luck and Mike Levitas still going at it for 6th and 7th for Wright Motorsports and TPC Racing, two of the real big name teams that are in this championship. And a quick look into the paddock, Jeremy, would see a number of these big teams running several cars And there is some advantage to that because obviously there's a bit of data that can be shared between the drivers.
Yeah, very much so. And there's some mega teams here in the past. Wright Motorsports, I think, just running the single entry here this weekend. But Kelly Moss Road and Race has, they got half a dozen cars. TPC Racing has got half a dozen cars. And it certainly does help because the drivers can sit down in the debriefs after a session and look at each other's track maps and see where they're making up speed. There's a number 17 car running. That's Kurt Swearingen running really wide down the exit of turn 1. It's okay in a race, he'll get away with that, but he can't. He doesn't. There are track limits in effect here at Road America, particularly at the exit of turn 1. You certainly can carry a lot more speed if you use that extra runoff area there. So it's frowned upon. In qualifying, the lap would be disallowed, but in racing, as long as he doesn't gain an advantage, he's going to be okay. Clearly, he hasn't on this lap.
Yeah, and there's clearly a tiny bit of frustration, I think, there with Kurt, with Charlie Craig ahead of him in that red, white and blue Porsche from TPC, running under the Craig Capital Corporation livery.
Great looking car, isn't it?
It's a fantastic looking car with the stars and stripes on that car, heading down to turn 7 just before the to turn 8, excuse me, just before the carousel. And all of the time that green, white and black car is sitting in behind it, it's losing ground to the leader in class, Efren Castro, who is now 3 cars between himself and second place. And Kurt Fazekas actually, well, I was going to say Kurt Fazekas with an opportunity to close in on Kurt, but on the other Kurt,
yes.
But I've just looked at his last lap time and he was oh yeah, he was. He's just taken a tiny bit off the number 17 car last time around.
You're right, Johnny. He's actually closing in quite quickly now. We saw Kurt Fazekas, of course, spin early on in this race, but he's closing up on his battle now. He's up to the 3rd position in class. He's already overtaken Richard Edge and Bart Collins, who are dicing away for 4th and 5th in the Gold Cup category. But now Kurt Fazekas is pretty much onto the tail of Kurt Swearingen as they head up the hill.
Yeah, Swearingen for ACI. Now trying to get the overlap, coming over the top of the brow, pulls out of the slipstream, out of the draft, maybe a tad early there, and loses a little bit of ground, going down towards turn 1. And here comes the Kelly Moss Road and Race car with that distinctive teal blue and yellow front end through turn 1, down the hill, through the little kink that's turn 2, which isn't really a corner, down to 3. That's a braking area, and Fazekas is there now, and Fazekas eyeing up second place, and only another 5 seconds further back is the other ACI Motorsports, a car in the gold category, the number 18 of Richard Edge, the Atlanta, Georgia resident. Now 5 seconds seems like a long time, but if these 3, Jeremy, start playing around, that 5 seconds could disappear very quickly indeed, and we might have a 3-car battle for the last couple of spots on the gold podium.
Yeah, possibly so. I think Kurt Fazekas has pulled away from Richard Edge and Bart Collins just a little bit, but if these 3 here hold each other up, then it's going to give them an opportunity to get back into the action. Now, both of the Gold Cup cars have managed to find a way past the number 76 there of Charlie Craig.
I think did Charlie... Sorry, Jeremy. Did Charlie lift there and let them go through? I wonder if he did, because he seemed to slow coming through Harry Downs there. He's dropped off a little bit. I wonder if he was either told on the radio or on a pit board that he did have the battle for second in gold behind him. He's not going to improve his position in class, is he? So if that was the case, that was a bit of heads up from he and the team working together. You can't really miss a gear on one of these now, can you?
No, it's virtually impossible with the paddle shifters and other sort of driver aids that are on all cars these days, much to my chagrin. I'd like the drivers to have a bit more control over what they're doing, not all these fail-safe things, but certainly for the wallet it makes sense, because it makes it a lot more difficult, I should say, to buzz the engine and perhaps cause some mechanical damage.
Right, back at the front of the field, Jeff Kingsley having a beautiful Saturday run here. Not had much to do, really. Couple of starts. The original start, Riley Dickinson right with him. The restart, see above comment. But now he's pulled out to almost 3 seconds of a lead. 2:13.2, still the best lap of the race, and still next to the name of Jeff Kingsley in that Kelly Moss Road and Race car. It's a livery we've become very used to down through the years, with the handprints on the side and that white and green livery. Jeff doing a cracking job as we head inside the last quarter of an hour, so the last third of the race. 15 minutes to go at Road America for the opening round of the 2020 IMSA Porsche GT3 Cup Challenge USA by Yokohama. Down through the fastest part of the circuit, Jeff Kingsley leads out then, and the flat six wailing away and rebounding from the concrete walls either side of the run through the King and down to Canada Corner. Over 3 seconds now, the lead to Mo Speed, and Riley Dickinson chasing in second position. He's got a couple of seconds on Alan Metney in the number 99, the all-white car. Alan driving the wheels off that car and leading the Masters category with about a 4-second gap back to Sebastian Carrazzo for another Kelly Moss Road and Race. So 3 of the Kelly Moss cars in the top 4. 5th for Sean McAllister and JDX Racing, and Charlie Luck is 2nd in Masters and 6th overall for the sole right car in the championship this year. Very impressed indeed with the pace at the front of the field, Jeremy, as Dickinson goes round turn number 1. He has not been able to live with the leader, and that is saying something, because Riley Dickinson can drive just about anything quickly.
Yeah, it's a little bit surprising, certainly, because I know that Riley is still just 18 years of age. Is Riley Dickinson from New Braunfels in Texas, just outside of San Antonio. He made a tremendous debut in his championship last season. Had a bunch of really strong races. He finally scored his first win in the final races of the season at Road Atlanta, and he came into this new year then on a roll with a bit of momentum on his side. Unfortunately, he had to wait an awful long time for the first race of this 2020 season. But today it seems he doesn't have quite the legs of that number 53, of the number 16 car of the Kelly Moss Road and Race team that runs out front at the moment. And Alan Metney there, the teammate to the race leader, running it very nicely in 3rd position, and he's not losing any ground at all to Riley Dickinson in 2nd place.
No, he's doing a very, very tidy job indeed, with just over a dozen minutes still to go. That pure white Kelly Moss Road and Race car almost looks like it's just rolled off the showroom floor. Looks almost like a street GT3. If it wasn't for the big high wing and the race numbers, you can almost think that he could stick some plates on that and drive it back to his hotel. Actually, knowing Alan, he'd probably do that anyway, to be honest. But no, doing a very, very good job indeed. And if anything, I think he might be just slightly closing in on Riley in 2nd position. It just looks like, to my eye, that gap is coming down a tiny bit. It's just on 2 seconds at the moment, and certainly it's not growing, as you said, Jeremy, and it'll be down to who's got any performance in the Yokohama tyres at the end. Yokohama build a specific tyre for this, and we've had someone who's had an exciting moment just coming through the King and it's gone off. Oh, hang on a second, is that Fazekas? I think that might be Kurt Fazekas who's gone sideways out at the King in the 52 car as we come out. Yeah. Yes, it is. The dust begins to settle. You don't have a small moment there, and I think he must have been into the wall. The right-hand side of the car still looks pretty all right, but what damage has been done to the left? I can just see that distinctive teal blue front end, which gave me half a clue that it was Fazekas. Now, he would been battling, remember, battling his way back up through the field after a spin early on at turn 7. Oh, there's big damage at the front. Right front suspension and steering gone. The Angelina's Pizza livery on that car, and already we've got the safety vehicle and IMSA intervention vehicle there. Oh, he went off very early in the piece. He was ahead of a decent battle. Yeah, lost the back end, got onto the grass and lost the back end. And that would have been a scary moment, Jeremy, and it was the swing back into the wall as he spun around that took the right front corner off. But that looked just to be slightly offline coming through, and I think, yeah, he managed to miss the safer barrier, so that was actually quite late on through the corner there.
Yeah, that's a really scary ride he would have taken there. I mean, this is a total commitment corner as the king in any sort of a car. But as you were saying a little while ago, John Hindhaugh, these Porsches are not easy cars to drive at the best of times. And when you get them on the dirt at about 150 miles an hour, they become even more difficult to control.
How quickly
that yellow flag was waving.
Exactly what I was going to say, Jeremy. The car hadn't even hit the wall and the yellow flag was waving, and then to stationary very quickly so that anyone coming behind. Excellent work by the flag marshals. Kurt is out of the car, sitting on the wall, slightly chastened, but I don't think anything other than his pride. And the Porsche is hurt, bent rear wing, right front suspension and steering damage, and Kurt sort of ruefully flicks open his helmet visor. He hasn't taken it off yet. He's talking to the AMR safety crew, and thanks as ever to all of our volunteers, whether they're on a flag post, part of the safety or rescue crews. And well, does he think he can drive it? Surely not. Maybe he's just taking it out of gear. Kurt has had his share of bad luck and incidents down through the years, and he's back in the car at the moment, maybe to take that car out of gear so they can try and tow it, but the right front wheel looks to me at a rather jaunty angle. I'll be impressed if they can flat tow that. Safety car is out for the second time of asking with 8.5 minutes to go. This could be a dash to the flag, Jeremy, and once again that lead that Jeff Kingsley had built up back to Riley Dickinson is going to be gone. Alan Metney will be right in the thick of it as well, and Sebastian Carrazzo, well, you can't count him out. We've seen him perform some quite bold overtaking manoeuvres in the past as well, if we can get this back to green, and that will all depend on the state of that number 52 Kelly Moss Road and Race car that Kurt Fazekas has modified somewhat on the front. That's not how that came out of Porsche Motorsport at Weissach.
It's not, is it? And that's a great shame for Kurt to start off his season this way. He's a super experienced contender. He's had 54 previous starts in his championship. He scored his first Gold Cup class win at Barber Motorsports Park a couple of years ago, and he was certainly looking to have a strong season here. And started off, he made that mistake on the first lap, wasn't it, and slipped back down through the field, but was making his way up again, was up into second place in the class. And I think at that stage in the game, he really was pushing unnecessarily hard. He wasn't going to catch, I don't think, Efren Castro quite a long way behind the Gold Club leader going into the final stages of the race. And unfortunately, I think Kurt will be ruining the fact that he pushed a little bit too hard in the kink and paid the price.
Points at the start of the season, second place points are better than no points at all. That's obvious, isn't it? But sometimes you've just got to accept that if you've been on a comeback drive, to get a decent points haul, you take that, regroup and go at it again tomorrow.
That's right. And the good news for Kurt, assuming they can get their car fixed for tomorrow, is that there's only 5 cars in the class, and even if as long as you start the race, you get finishing points.
Yes.
So he will still get 5th place points. So that's the good news. But the bad news is it's any kind of a deficit is not what you want, and he's thrown away. You get a fairly big gap between first and second. It's 35 points for a win, 32 for second, and then 2-point differentials behind that. So he's cost himself probably only 6 championship points here, but to repair one of these cars is neither the work of the moment, nor is it particularly good on the pocketbook.
No, it's not a piggy bank repair, is it? Certainly. You say 6 points he's cost himself there, Jeremy. We've seen championships in both the platinum and the gold category decided by fewer points than that come the end of the season.
Yeah, very much so, certainly. And I think we knew coming into this year it's going to be a tight battle at the front here. The last couple of years, we've seen some kind of runaway leaders in the overall championship. Roman DeAngelis swept everything before him last year, and in the Gold Cup class it was the same last year for Sebastian Carrazzo, who won all but 4 of the 16 races last season to win the championship in Gold Cup. He's now stepped up into platinum for this season. Carrazzo running in the 4th position. Now that's a good first run for him, I think, in that car, that yellow and orange car.
Yep, sitting in 4th place, the bright highlighter car with the orange stripe over the front of it. It's not a massive jump, Jeremy. You know, it's a familiar setting for Sebastian, but he's in the shark pool now at the sharp end of the field. He's got a little more power to play with, slightly different handling characteristics. Somebody that I trust very much indeed about driving these cars, but I won't say who it is, told me that in a back-to-back test, the newer version and the older version, it wasn't like chalk and cheese, but it was quite close to that. A big difference, particularly in the driving style of how you commit to a corner, particularly in the newer version, the platinum version of the car. 4 minutes to go. We'll have to go green very shortly indeed if we're going to get another lap of green flag racing. I think that we would have to go green next time around and get basically
be a struggle, I think.
Yeah, it would basically be not even green white checker, it would be green and white together then checker. It would just be one lap dash. It's all going to depend how much. The only benefit is that with 4 miles around, if that's number 52 car is on the back of the flatbed and moving, and it doesn't necessarily have to go all the way back. It can come off at Canada Corner, which is exactly where it is now. And if they can get that car and the flatbed off, hopefully, it could go back to green, because then that incident will be behind the race when it comes round next time around. 3 minutes to go. Safety car seems to be speeding up a little bit. I think we're going to try and get this back to green, Jeremy. I really do. And fair play if that is the case. Yeah, safety car lights are out. Brilliant stuff. Well done to race control.
Yeah, going to hustle this car around here and try and have time for one more lap of green flag racing. I'm sure Jeff Kingsley, as the leader, he'll be happy if time expires before he gets back to the start-finish line. But certainly for Riley Dickinson behind him and Alan Metley behind him, they want this race to go green for one more lap.
Well, once it's been called that there will be one more lap, I presume that even if time expires, that we would go back green, but that will be down to race control. They're definitely giving it their best shot, and I really applaud that. I do. Jeff Kingsley, I know, would like to have just cruised to victory, but it's always nicer, isn't it, to win with the green flag out. Yeah, they're definitely going to get around here. Brilliant work by the recovery crew and great forethought by race control that should get round one of the IMSA Porsche GT3 Cup Challenge USA by Yokohama back to green flag. Safety car driver having more fun than he's had for a while. He's going quicker than I've seen that car move. Normally sticking to a relatively sensible pace. Now he's got to get out of the way as the field comes back under the control of Jeff Kingsley for Kelly Moss Road and Race, who has not been headed by anyone since the drop of the original green flag. We're going to have about 60 seconds on the clock when we come back around, so that's more than enough. Now, when will Jeff Kingsley put the hammer down? He hit the loud pedal coming through the final corner on the last restart. He's done it again, and Riley Dickinson perhaps was a little too close coming through turn 14 and couldn't follow him all the way through, and that's a good jump going on to what is confirmed as the final lap. The green flag is out, but this will be the final lap down towards turn number 1. And the pole sitter and the driver who's led every lap of this race for Kelly Moss Road and Race team is Jeff Kingsley, down towards the braking area at turn 2. Is there anybody making any moves? 45 in the background is Charlie Luck, second in Masters, and Mike Levitas was looking down the inside. So was the 48 car as well of David Brule Sr., another Kelly Moss Road and Race car. No worries about saving the Yokohama rubber now, Jeremy. Get it all out of the fast draw and throw it on the track.
Absolutely right, and Alan Menty kind of looks to the inside there, but it really wasn't close enough to Riley Dickinson to think about making a move for the second place overall. Meanwhile, for second place in Masters, it's super tight down there in turn 5 as they head up the hill to turn 6. It's still Charlie Luck just ahead of Michael Levitas.
Half a lap to go right at the back of the field. The number 18 car of Richard Edge was trying to go and make up a position. I think that was not in class, though. I've got a strong suspicion that was the number 76 of Charlie Craig that he was alongside. At the front of the field, Jeff Kingsley, I think, has got enough. I'm prepared to say now that if he can keep that car pointing in the right direction, I think he's got enough. Dickinson's not been able to hold on to him. Didn't quite get the restart that he wanted. Dickinson pushing hard, though, goes all the way out and kicks up the dust from the accident of Kurt Fasikas earlier on in the race. That was at the kink, down to Canada Corner. Dickinson super late on the brakes. He is closing in. Has he got anything left? There's only really one more passing place, and that's into turn 14. Unless he can get a super run and the leader makes a mistake, and Kingsley's been wheel perfect for the last 45 minutes and more. As time elapsed around about a minute and a half ago, so we started with 45 minutes on the clock. We're going to have something close to 47 minutes of action, and the first round of the IMSA Porsche GT3 Cup Challenge USA by Yokohama does indeed go the way of Jeff Kingsley, who has bossed this one for Kelly Moss Road and Race. Most speeds, Riley Dickinson comes home in second place. Alan Metney is third overall and wins the Masters class again at Kelly Moss Road and Race. The rest of the top 6, Sebastian Carrazzo for Kelly Moss, JDX's Sean McAllister, and rounding up the top 6, Charlie Luck for Wright Motorsports. And right at the end, we still had drama as off in the gravel trap, the number 9, and that again, I'm afraid not the first time we've seen Tom Balamas off. Also, we should congratulate Efren Castro for TPC Racing, 10th overall and winning GT3 Gold Cup ahead of Kurt Swearingen, and in third place, that will have been the number 22 of Bart Collins, another one of the Florida drivers. Well, you can't argue with the winner, Jeff Kingsley, who led every single lap of the race, had 3 restarts to negotiate, or 1 start and 2 restarts, Jeremy. I think he'll be very happy with that, and that'll put him in a good frame of mind for round 2 on Sunday.
Yeah, that was a perfect drive, wasn't it, from Jeff Kingsley, 22 years of age, and this is his first time running up front. He had a couple of second place finishes last season, but he's done exactly what he wanted to do today and get that first win under the season, and yet another win for Kelly Moss Road and Race. This is by far the most successful team in the history of this championship. By my reckon, this is the team's 60th win, dating back to 2007.
Oh, Tom, throw your gloves in frustration, but never throw a helmet. You're going to need that tomorrow, and that's now probably going to need replacing right at the last. Frustration. But I'm afraid the equipment lying all over the place is not the right way to go. Kelly Moss Road and Race with 3 cars in the top 4. Jeff Kingsley takes the platinum class. TPC's Racing, Efren Castro takes gold. A little too much of the safety car, I'm afraid. We had this at this venue last year, but the good news is that the IMSA Porsche GT3 Cup Challenge USA by Yokohama for 2020 is underway. We have 2 winners. We have another race tomorrow. Can they hold on and stretch their lead, or will someone else come through to take the checkered flag? Find out tomorrow on IMSA Radio and IMSA TV.